minutes past. So welcome everyone to the Business Builder this Thursday afternoon. I'm so happy to have you here. And for those of you that couldn't make it and are watching the recording, I am happy to have you as well. I am very excited to introduce our speaker today, the wonderful Angela De Souza. Angela is the founder and head of the International Women's Business Club, which has grown phenomenally in the time that she has opened it, and it is a wonderful support group for many female entrepreneurs all over the world. But that's not all Angela does. She's actually a serial entrepreneur and a prolific writer, and her latest book is linked to the title of today's talk. Metacognition is all about the mindset and the way of thinking that Angela used in order to make herself successful and to get her businesses to where they are today. So Angela, welcome. I'm so excited to have you, and I can't wait to hear from you. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me, and it's lovely to see you all here. Yeah, let's get on with it. So as Tamron rightly said, my name is Angela De Souza, and I founded Women's Business Club by accident, as many great business stories are starting out, you know, as an accident. I never intended to set up the global movement that it's become. All I wanted to do was create a space for business women to come together where they could be comfortable being themselves. So show up as their authentic self, and learn and grow together and build businesses. And it was quite that simple. That's how it started. But I am a builder, so it's good that I'm in the Business Builders webinar. I'm a builder and a grower, and I can't help myself. And sometimes that's a good thing when a company needs growth, and sometimes it's a bad thing when a company needs maintenance. I'm not your maintenance person, and I find maintenance really, really hard. But anyway, back to the beginning. So Women's Business Club just started as 12 women coming together for lunch with a fantastic speaker, a gentleman came in on that particular day, and he did a lovely talk for us. We had a healthy meal, and we had a mini mastermind session afterwards to just brainstorm and troubleshoot any problem areas in our business. And that's how we started back in 2013. And as I said, I had no plans. I can't claim to have had this clever business model. I can't claim to have used metacognition even, intentionally at least. I can't claim to have done that. All I can say is that I saw a problem, and I saw something that I personally wasn't happy with in the business world, and I wanted to do something about it. And so from that point until today, just 11 odd years later, I now discovered, oh gosh, it's been my university training, you know. There's nothing wasted, and there's no failures that's ever wasted, you know, and there's no money that's ever wasted if you see it as part of your education. And so I've learned so much along the way, and that's why I've written so many books. I just love to share. I love to share everything. That's why I do so many webinars and podcasts. I just love to share what I've learned from a very real way. I hate it, or maybe that's a strong word, but I really, it rubs you up the wrong way when you see all of these success stories on social media and how this person made this many millions or billions, and this person drives this many Ferraris, and great. It's great that they're that successful. And then they have the 7 steps how to do the same as them. But none of it's real. And it frustrates me, and it really rubs you up the wrong way, especially when people say they're going to guarantee X results in X number of months for X number of pounds or rands or whatever. Because again, it's not possible, because you don't know the person, you don't know their story, you don't know their constraints, you don't know their business. It's not possible. And so I like to come at things from being authentic and being vulnerable. Like, I will share what's worked, and I will also share where I've failed, and everything else in between, and just keep it real. So today, Women's Business Club exists worldwide. We serve women in every country, and we are building a platform to serve them in their own language and their own currency if there are things that they want to purchase. And so we're building something that hopefully will remove barriers for women, whatever barriers they're facing in their country. I don't think I can solve load shedding problems through the platform, but other problems that women are facing in business, other constraints. We come together and we troubleshoot and we see what we can do. And so that's where we are today. I don't want to spend too much time talking about me and Women's Business Club, but I just want you to have a little idea of who I am and my business journey. And so if you do want to know more, of course, chat with me afterwards, or jump onto the website womensbusiness.club. And then if you click onto the Clubhouse button, you can have a browse around the platform that we're busy developing to reach as many women as possible across the world. And then for you gentlemen, don't worry, this is not a man-bashing organization. This is actually a female empowerment organization, and we need healthy and successful men to support us in our journey as well. So we do have male speakers, we have male sponsors, we have men coming into our events, we have men, however, we can grow as women, we have amazing men supporting us. We are very much in partnership with them. And so it's nothing to do with, man bashing or man stomping. That's not at all. That's the opposite to what we're about. We're about helping women be the best they can be and providing them with the best support that we can. And so that's it. I'll stop there. Full stop. As I said, we can chat about that later. So today, where I want to go to with this, with metacognition is, I passionately believe that one word, one thought can change your life. Imagine if you change a few thoughts, and so I really want to help you all get into that mindset. And if you leave today with just one word or one thought, one thing that you're going to work on, I believe that's enough. That could be a game changer. So don't look for, you may not need to take a million notes. You may need to just sit back and relax, open your mind and wait for that one thought or that light bulb moment or that penny to drop, and then you'll know. And it can be that profound. So let's start with a little practical exercise to demonstrate. So we're talking about unlocking your inner genius, the power of metacognition for business success. But actually, you can apply these principles to any part of your life. It works in relationships, it works in business, it works in your personal and professional growth. Once you get this principle in place, you can apply it to any area of your life that you want to see a change in. And of course, every area of life is always interlinked, isn't it? You're not just a person here and a business here, like everything is interlinked. So let's do a little practical exercise just for fun. You can turn off your camera if you want privacy, but close your eyes. Okay, close your eyes and visualize this scene. It's a warm summer's day, and you're sitting by a breakfast bar, overlooking a garden, feeling a nice cool breeze coming in and refreshing you. And in front of you, you've got your glass of sparkling water. And you have a little sip, and then you see the fruit bowl next to you, and it's filled with lemons, nice, juicy, yellow lemons. And so you pick up one of these lemons and you think, oh, that will go so nicely in my sparkling water. And you give it a smell. Visualize yourself smelling that lemon. You can smell that fragrance. Very refreshing, isn't it? So you grab a knife, slice open the lemon, and you squeeze it into your sparkling water. Can you see those little droplets bursting, those little lemon sacs bursting as you squeeze into the water? And then you pick it up and you take a sip, and it's so refreshing. It's so refreshing. You can taste the lemon, the little bubbles are splashing on your face. Okay, have you had a good few sips of your sparkling water with lemon? Now, has anyone tasted or had a hint of a taste of lemon in their mouth? You may or may not have, but some people do. I think, now I'm going to misquote the statistics because I don't remember numbers well, but I think it's around 30% of people will actually get a taste of lemon on their tongue when we do an exercise like that. If you did or didn't, if you did, fantastic, it really proves the point. But the point is the power of thought. You're thinking about a lemon, and then you can taste it, because that's how powerful thoughts are. It can actually have a physical manifestation. And that applies across the board. So many things, you've heard of the placebo effect. The placebo effect really is somebody having a thought that they believe in so strongly that they can get healed. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about the power of your thoughts. And then we're going to be taking a look at how we can harness that power to make the necessary changes in your life that you want to see to unlock your business success. And so I'm going to share my screen with you so that you don't have to keep looking at my face. And let's hope it works. I had it all set up earlier. So Tamron, is that as it was earlier? You can see the screen okay? Brilliant.
Yes,
okay.
Perfect. Thanks.
Okay, brilliant. So this is based on a book that's coming out very soon. You can pre-order it already. It's by the same title, and I'll tell you more about it at the end. But I'm really, really wanting to get this message out there as much as possible. And so, but before we get started, this is a very, very important part of the process. Read this. Okay, I see some giggles. Have you finished reading? Right, I'm going to go to the next one. You have finished having a giggle? Oh, please unmute, I want to hear giggles and comments. Right, now we're ready to move on. There was absolutely no purpose to that. I usually do this with a live audience because I like to hear the giggles. It lightens the load, and I just love a good cheesy joke, but there was absolutely no reason for that. So let's get stuck into it. So the first thing we want to take a look at is your thought life. Okay, so what do you think about? Think about what you think about. Just give me a sec. Sorry, guys. So what are thoughts? Thoughts are an idea produced by thinking. We all know that. Did you know that the average person has over 30,000 thoughts a day? Right now, your thoughts are determining your direction in life, in business, in relationships. Your thoughts are determining your direction. So very simply, change your thoughts, change your direction, right? So what are you thinking about? This is what we need to uncover today. What do you actually spend your time thinking about? What are your 30,000 thoughts saying to you? Where are your 30,000 thoughts leading you? And this is shocking statistic. Did you know that 70% of your thoughts are negative and redundant? That's frightening, isn't it? So it's far easier for us to be doing negative thinking than it is positive thinking. And if your thoughts are determining your direction, then that is really strong case for changing our thoughts so we can change our direction. So 70% of your thoughts are negative and redundant. And most of what you're thinking is wasting your life away. So if you want to have a better life, it's time to take your mind back, because what you think, you become. Think about what you're thinking about. Psychologists call this metacognition. Metacognition is the awareness and understanding of one's own thought processes. And understanding this can change your life. So take a few minutes right now, if you have a pen and paper handy, or jump on your computer and write down just off the top of your head some thoughts that you know that you're often thinking about. What thoughts, maybe worries, maybe something's on your mind quite strongly now in your business, you've got something that you're excited about. Write down just off the top of your head. Just let a few ideas come down and write them down. What are you typically thinking about most of the time? Now consider what you're thinking about. And I'm telling you, most of the time, if I'm mentoring somebody, or if I'm chatting with somebody and they share these thoughts with me, I can pretty much predict their future. I'm not psychic, of course not, but because your thoughts determine your direction, I can then take a look at your most dominant thoughts and say, well, actually, if you keep thinking this way, you're likely to end up here. You're likely to see this outcome because your thoughts are determining your direction. Your life is moving in the direction of your strongest thoughts. So you can predict your future if you become aware of your thoughts. So already, and we're only at the beginning of this, already you are empowered because you suddenly realize that actually I can take my mindset back, I can take my thoughts back, and I can start to change things in my life by changing my thinking. And I'm going to come to how to do this a bit later on, so don't worry about that. But what we want to start with now is an awareness. We want to start with metacognition, an awareness and understanding of your thought processes. If you are unsure, if you struggle to pinpoint some of your dominant thoughts, another thing that you can do is look at what comes out of your mouth. Listen to what you talk about often. Listen to what you're saying. Listen to how you're saying it. Are you coming across as quite a positive person? Are you coming across as quite a negative person? In fact, a thought just popped in my head now of a certain person I know and love very dearly who is very positive. I've always thought it's easy to identify the negative people and think, oh, I don't want to spend too much time around them, that, they bring me down, they're negative. But I've just this minute had a bit of a revelation where, positive people, fantastic to be around, but there could also be some denial in it. You're always positive by default, that actually you're in denial about some of the other things that might be bothering you or hindering you. You're just in a program to be positive. And so I would say, jot down your thoughts if they're positive or negative. But if you find yourself being overtly positive, it might be just as harmful as being a negative person or a negative thinker. And so just consider that as well. Consider, are you actually overcompensating to try and hide something from yourself and others, or if you're in denial, for example. So what do you often talk about? And are the words that come out of your mouth usually positive or negative? Write that down. Anything that comes to mind as we're chatting today. Now, what do you talk to yourself about? Again, key thing. Self-talk. I don't know if this is for most people, but I definitely find most women, their self-talk is often quite negative. We are more critical of ourselves than we would be of anybody else. We are more harsh and severe on ourselves than we would dare say out loud to anyone else. So what do you talk to yourself about, and is your self-talk positive or negative? And this is really, really important. So there's what's coming out of your mouth, what you're saying to other people, but also what are you saying to yourself and how are you treating yourself? This is also key. And then once you've done that, once you've written down all of your thoughts here, have a stab at predicting your future based on what you've written down, from what you're thinking and how you're thinking and what you're saying. Come up with a little bit of a narrative. So this is potentially what my future is looking like based on my thoughts. And then decide if you're happy with that or not. Some of you may be happy. You can do the exercise for your business. You can isolate it to, what am I thinking about in business? How do I think about in business? What is my self-talk in business like? And so you could do it for your whole life, for your personal life, your business life, but write down and start to take control of your future by identifying your thoughts. One of my favorite cognitive neuroscientists, Dr. Caroline Leaf, says that we need to take 16 minutes a day out of our busy schedule to sit down and think. Thinking can just be, like our amazing guru, Winnie the Pooh, sit down and think. Find a favorite spot or a favorite place and just allow your mind to wander. She says this is the housekeeping for your brain. And afterwards, you'll know what to think about. And so that is really, really key. I've been forgetting to use my slides. So let's do a recap. And then you can do a little screenshot if that's helpful. Okay, so I'll leave that there for a bit while I carry on, just if you want to do a screenshot or if you want to recap. So this is housekeeping for your brain, just sitting down and allowing yourself to think. The way I see it personally is I don't know if you remember, I don't know if this still exists. Back in the day, I used to have to defrag my computer. I used to have to sit down and get the disk defrag going and watch those little files moving from one place to another. And apparently that was going to make my computer work more efficiently, run more smoothly. And it's the same for our brains. If our brains are continually working and moving things around and recalling memories and creating new ones and all this stuff going on, especially in modern living, we keep our brains so busy. I'm surprised we haven't all fried our brains already, because we're always multitasking, watching things on devices, multiple devices at once. You could be watching your favorite sitcom and on your phone answering an email, and having your laptop next to you. Like we are nuts what we do with our minds, with our brains. And so we're busy. We go to sleep with a long to-do list. We probably dream weird dreams because our brains are so fried. And think about your brain like that computer. What would it look like if we were doing an analysis? Take time to defrag your brain. Just sit, and the way you do that is you just sit and you just think whatever your brain wants to think. You don't have to force it to think anything. You don't have to specify if it's negative or positive. You allow yourself just to think. And Dr. Caroline Leaf says you need to take at least 16 minutes a day to do that. And it doesn't even have to be 16 minutes back to back. I mean, I prefer to do it all at once. I like to just have a good think. And then I feel like, okay, now I can move on with my day. And I like to do it in the morning, but that's my personal preference. I also like to go for long walks and just think. But that's how I like to do it. That works for me. For you, it could be something totally different, but make sure you find time throughout the day or once a day to allow yourself to think. Just doing that will do you the world of good. It will already have an impact on how you think. Okay, so let's take a look at what we should be thinking about. Unsuccessful people think about survival. I don't know if you can relate or if you know anybody like that. It's all about how you're going to get through the day, how you're going to pay your bills, how you're going to get by. It's survival. Average people, so most people, think about maintenance. We've achieved a certain something. How do we just maintain it? Can anybody guess what successful people think about? Because this is where we want to get to. And I'm pretending like thousands of you are putting your hand up and the crowd comes out with loads of ideas. Okay, calm down, everyone. Let's just take a look at what the slide says. Successful people think about progress. So what do you identify with? Which one is you? Are you unsuccessful? Are you average? Or are you successful? And where do you want to be? And can you see how we can change our outcome by starting to think differently? If you're stuck in survival mode, but you want to be in success mode, you need to identify, wow, I'm only thinking about surviving to pay my bills at the end of the month. How can I progress with my finances so that I'm actually saving, or I'm actually investing, or I'm actually having enough money to upgrade something? Do you see what I'm saying? I'm just using money as an example, but this does apply. This applies to absolutely everything. Relationships. If people could think differently in relationships, this is romantic relationships, business relationships, sibling relationships, parent, whatever, relationships. If you're struggling in a particular relationship, identify the thoughts and see how you can change it. And how can you see a way to progress in that relationship rather than just survive it or put up with it? And so that's really, really important as well. Now, this is all just about thoughts and what you need to be thinking about. But let's move on to the next piece of the puzzle, and that's beliefs. Now, what are beliefs? Beliefs are the state of mind that accepts something as true. Beliefs come from thoughts. Beliefs come from thinking the same thing over and over again. This may be rational based on fact, or irrational based on your past experience or childhood. Beliefs don't equal truth. Beliefs are your truth. It's true for you. Doesn't mean it's true, if that makes any sense. So we could have a strong belief about something based on anything, based on, either we've done some scientific research and we believe something because the science points that way. We could have a belief because of a childhood experience, positive or negative. We can have a belief on anything. The belief stems from repeatedly thinking the same thing to create the belief. And this is what I was alluding to earlier, the placebo effect. In medicine, this belief has been found to be so powerful that the own body's chemistry can cause effects similar to those of what medication might have caused. So experts also say there's a relationship between how strongly a person expects to have a result or whether or not the result occurs. The stronger the feeling, the more likely it is that that person will experience positive effects. So they really, really believe. And if you're really, really believing something, you are obviously really, really thinking about it. So it goes back to the thought. There's also the nocebo effect. So the same as placebo, but the negative, nocebo effect. And again, if you believe something will affect you negatively, it will. And this applies to medicine, but equally about beliefs in general. Negative thinking will manifest negative life experiences. What you believe, you become. Dr. Bruce Lipton says that 95% of your life is lived unconsciously based on what you absorbed in the first 7 years of your life. Only 5% of your life is operated in the creative zone, which is your conscious mind. Now that is, it's just mind-blowing. It really is. If you think about that, we can't go back and change those first 7 years. And I freak my children out when I, who have children of their own, my grandchildren, like my eldest grandchild's just turned 8. And so like her mom nearly broke down and cried because she's like, well, that's it, I'm done. The first 7 years are gone. Poor thing. I think I put too much emphasis on that, perhaps. But it's true, we really have to take time out. The first 7 years of our life is so important. But don't worry, it's not hopeless if you had a horrible first 7 years. So the subconscious mind can only be programmed in 2 ways. And this is, again, continuing on from what Dr. Bruce Lipton says. First is in the first 7 years of your life. And the second is repetition. So we need to change our beliefs by changing our thoughts and keep thinking the right thoughts over and over again until you believe them. So you could start out with a common thought. A common thought is, I'm not good enough. You believe that because a parent or a teacher or a friend said something to you when you were in your first 7 years, and they just said it. They didn't really mean it, maybe, or maybe they just said it in passing, or maybe they were angry and they said it in anger, but they just said it once, and that sowed a seed into you, into your little 7-year-old or under 7-year-old heart, and that became a belief because you continuously thought that I'm not good enough, and that could be in any area of life. But that not good enough, then as you get older, will seep into your professional life. It will seep into your relationships. It will underpin so much of your life just because one person said something to make you believe that you're not good enough. Now, you can't change the first 7 years of your life, but you can change the thought and start thinking the right thought repeatedly. At first, when you're doing this, I found speaking it out helps. It makes it even more powerful. So if I say I am good enough, you're still going to feel not good enough. You're still going to think not good enough, but you keep saying I am good enough. And every time you hear it, you start to change your thinking. Every time I'm not good enough thought comes in your mind, start rebuking yourself, start correcting yourself. I am good enough. You won't feel anything at first. You'll feel like you're just lying to yourself, but you keep doing it. The repetition is reprogramming your brain. The repetition until one day you suddenly realize, oh my goodness, I really am good enough. And it changes everything. So repetition is one of the ways that you can start to create new thoughts, new beliefs. I've got a little note here I wanted to read. Sticking a note on a fridge is a suggestion. It's not going to change your subconscious mind, but saying it repeatedly whilst visualizing and feeling it will cause lasting change. So like we did at the exercise at the beginning, we closed our eyes and we visualized the sparkling water and the lemon. Visualizing that's not going to change your life, but you were feeling, weren't you feeling a bit more relaxed? Because I did say it was a warm day and there was a cool breeze. So didn't you have a feeling connected to those thoughts? So if you want to do this repetition exercise and change your thoughts on repeatedly thinking them, but also visualize. So I'm good enough. Maybe visualize the particular circumstance where you don't feel good enough. So visualize it. So say it, visualize it, and then feel feelings. You will get associated feelings. And when you get to that point, and feelings is point 3, I will get there, that will then start to cause lasting change. And then you've made a change with your thought. So if you're a grumpy, unhappy person for no reason, you've always just been a grumpy, unhappy person, you don't know why, simply start smiling. Walk around, smile at people. Just do that. Start to think yourself happy and smile even when you don't feel happy, and you'll become a happy person in no time. I know I'm oversimplifying it, but it's true. You can start to smile in situations where you wouldn't usually smile. I've got myself into the habit of, when I go for a walk, I make sure I smile at everybody I walk past and greet them. It's just amazing. It makes such a difference to putting your head down and looking the other way and pretending like you didn't see somebody that's just walking past you. And so just really, and it makes my walk so much happier, and I'm hoping it makes their walk so much happier too. 95% of who we are by the time we are 35 years old is a memorized set of behaviors that function like a computer program. You have to get beyond the analytical mind. What separates the conscious mind from the unconscious mind is the analytical mind. And so there is a lot of work for us to be doing, but once we start doing this work, I love the computer program analogy. It just helps me understand things better. I like a good metaphor. But if we start to see it that way, then we can be more proactive about reprogramming, rewiring our brain, and changing the outcome by changing the thought. So let's move on to feelings. So feelings, there we go, finally got there. So feelings are an emotional reaction to a thought. So you have a thought, you have a belief around that thought, and you have a corresponding feeling. What we believe determines how we feel, and feelings are not necessarily accurate. I always say feelings are not real, and I have a reason I say that. It's real to you, but it doesn't mean the situation's real. What are you feeling? Can you trace it back to a belief? And can you trace that back to a thought or a thought pattern? So if you're feeling a certain way about something, you don't have to accept that. You can say, wait a minute, why do I feel this way? What is the belief behind it? And then take that belief and go back to the root thought or thought pattern. And that's when you can start changing the way things turn out. Just because you think something doesn't mean it's true. For example, if one of your colleagues called you aside right now and said that someone close to you has just been involved in a major accident, you'd have a reaction, wouldn't you? You'd gasp for air. Maybe your heart would rate. You'd have a feeling. You'd have an emotional feeling and a physical reaction. However, that person mistook the name on the end of the phone, and actually it was someone else. There was no accident. It was a terrible misunderstanding on your colleague's part. But you didn't know that. So you had these feelings and these thoughts. And that's what I mean by feelings are not real. And it felt real at the time, but actually we need to take control of our thoughts and our beliefs, and we can then change our feelings. We don't have to have these strong reactions to things. Feelings are how you feel in your physical body. A great example is stage fright, being scared to do public speaking, insecurity. Insecurity is a very powerful feeling, but it comes from a root thought. That feeling is not necessarily real. It's based on a root thought. Change the thought, the feeling goes away or changes. So you can start to program your mind differently. You could have strong feelings based on past failures. And because you've had these past failures, you're now thinking failure mode, your thoughts are failure, your beliefs are failure, you start to feel like a failure. Again, you're not a failure. You might have failed at one thing. And something that happened to me actually a few years ago was actually embracing the word failure as failure. Why do I associate negatively with failure? Why do I see failure as a negative? Actually, if I look back at all my failures, they were stepping stones to success. Without them, I would not be where I am today. And then, in fact, I developed a whole talk about failure, turning failure into profit, because really it's those failures, that's the gold in your story. That's what makes your story interesting. That's the gold in your own journey. Those failures are actually valuable and positive things. But I don't know why. I think we raised or we programmed or a culture or whatever it is, we associate failure with being a negative thing. Well, actually, failure is a wonderful thing. And people who don't fail, they aren't trying. They aren't going to get anywhere because they're not really doing anything, because failure is essential to success. So the way to rewire your brain, apparently most traditionally it is 21, they say it takes 21 days to start rewiring your brain. Dr. Caroline Leaf again says 3 cycles of 21. It takes 63 days to change a habit or to put a new cycle in place. And so it's a lot longer than we would think or have traditionally been told, but you have to do 3 cycles of 21 to completely rewire your neural pathways. I'm not a neuroscientist, so I might be misquoting some of the terms, but that's how I see it. Our feelings determine our actions. So again, brain, like a computer, it's been programmed since early childhood, and it can be reprogrammed too. And so this is the next place we want to get to, is looking at our actions. So thoughts create your beliefs, create feelings, determine actions. Okay. And so often when sorry, let me take a drink. Often when we're looking at something that we're not happy with in our business or our life, we look at the action, we look at the outcome. Okay, so we're looking at the outcome or the action that we're taking, and we try to change that. And then we keep trying to change that, and we keep, I'm not going to say failing, but we're not getting the results we want. And we get frustrated, and we try again, and then we give up because it's too hard, because we're trying to change the wrong thing. So look at any outcome in your business right now, anything you're struggling with in life, and try to trace it back. How do you feel? And then trace that feeling back to why do you feel that way based on what you're believing, and then trace it back to the root thought. Okay, that's the process. Once you can identify that root thought and you change that root thought, it's going to have a knock-on effect to your beliefs, your feelings, and your actions. And this is what I'm saying, it's a game changer. I remember I was once at one of my own Women's Business Club events, but I wasn't leading it. I was listening to the speaker. I can't for the life of me remember what she was speaking about. I just remember the one thing that impacted me. As I was sitting there listening, I realized that the reason I was stuck in my business journey was because I believed the amount of money I was making at that point was the most money I could make. I couldn't go beyond that. I couldn't see beyond that. That was the most money I'd ever made, but I was also stuck at that number. And I remember there was a light bulb moment when I realized that's the problem. It's not my business plan. It's not anything else. It's me. The head of this company is limiting everything because I can't see past that. And that day I made a decision to change that thought. So that's nonsense. Of course I can make more money than that. And of course, business is about the bottom line. You do have to make a certain amount of money. And if you want to grow, you need to make more money so that you can get more staff, do better marketing, etc., etc. It does matter. That day changed everything because I changed the thought. I was like, right, change the thought. Then I started to believe, wait a minute, of course I can. I just keep doing what I'm doing and scale it. And then that changed the feeling, how I felt about myself. And before you knew it, we broke through and we were able to get through to the next level of revenue. Now, had I not had that light bulb moment and not changed that thought, I would be holding everybody else back. I would be holding the whole company back. And one of my favorite speakers, Flippen is his name, and I heard a talk from him, and he was like, an organization cannot rise above the constraints of its leader. And so I'm always mindful that my constraints affect everybody else, my company, my members, my leaders, everybody. So I need to be better. I need to always be improving so that I can take everybody else on the journey with me. That thought changed everything, and that's the power of thoughts. So let's take a look at how we can rewire our brain, because that's where we want to get to. We want to get to the point where we are making these significant changes. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to take time out. We need to disconnect, especially, I can't stress enough, in our modern, fast-paced, 3-minute microwave meal, instant social media, blah, blah, blah. We have to disconnect regularly. And so find your thoughtful spot. Maybe make a commitment to go for a walk where you don't usually go for a walk, but don't listen to a podcast. Don't listen to music. Don't keep filling yourself. Go for a walk and disconnect. Don't even take a device with you. It's okay if there was a deer in the field and you didn't get to photograph it. Life will go on. You know what I mean? Like sometimes we feel like we can't be without our phone. What happens if we miss something? Well, I grew up without TV when I was a child, without a telephone, and I survived. So you'll be fine. So find your thoughtful spot. A lady that I was in my women's business club a few years ago, all she did was she said, I never get to finish a cup of tea. That was her big thing. It was like, I'm so busy. There's so many half-drunk cold cups of tea. I never get to finish a cup of tea. So what she committed to do was have a full cup of tea, sit down and drink her cup of tea until it was finished. That was her disconnect. And it sounds so simple. It might sound silly to some of you, but to her, that changed everything. That gave her every day, finishing a cup of tea was her moment to disconnect. So think about what you're thinking about, and then choose what you want to be thinking about. Intentionally decide what you're going to spend your 30,000 thoughts on. Some great practices include mindfulness meditation. That can be done in your 16 minutes to quieten your mind and the voices whirling around in your head. Meditation enhances the brain's ability to reorganize itself, especially in the prefrontal cortex, which is your problem-solving, planning, and personality part of the brain. And so that's a great practice as well, I discovered. It really, really helps just to take time and do some mindful meditation. So that's the first, and I've actually done it in a acrostic. I love little patterns and things like that. So it's going to spell think. H is have a go. And this is fascinating. I find this really fascinating. So have a go is try something new. You know, there's some science around what happens to your brain when you try something new. And there's a quote, which I'm going to misquote because it's not in my notes, but it's something along the lines of, once your brain is expanded, it's never going to go back to its original size, something like that. I told you I'd misquote it, but the point is, look it up. It's true. You know, scientifically, once you've expanded your brain, it's not going to shrink back. It's not like a rubber band. And so, you know, have a go. Try something new. It's good for you anyway, but it's really good for your brain health. Identify good. This is one of my favorite ones. You know, think about what's good. Think about, you know, what's positive in your life. Gratitude is, again, a powerful thing for your mind. And so practice gratitude. Have a gratitude journal in your company, in your team. Practice saying thank you to people, identifying something good that they've done. It's so important that, you know, we take time out to identify good in people, in our life, and it is really, really good for rewiring your brain as well. It can completely change patterns in your mind. I think that's all I'll say on that. For now, we can discuss it later. No, oh my goodness, when I discovered this word, it set me free. No is necessary, right? So many people are scared of the no word, but the no word, it changes everything. It sets you free and frees up your time or your money or whatever you're saying no to make room for the things that you need room for. And if we are saying yes to everything all the time, either because we want people to like us, so we just say yes, 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 and actually we're dying inside, or we just say yes out of habit because we don't realize we're allowed to use the N word. You know, no, It's such an important word. You have to say no to things to make room for the things you want to say yes to. Something has to give. And so a good part of rewiring your brain is really assessing situations and just saying no to what you need to say no to. And something, top tip from me is, I don't give a reason. Many times giving a reason then could lead us into telling a lie because we don't think the reason's good enough. So we make up a little story, which turns out to be a lie. And we don't need to. If you say no, just say no. Let your yes be yes, your no be no. Keep it simple. And I also find if you are going to make up a story, you're going to get caught out anyway, and it's going to ruin your reputation and people won't trust you. So keep it simple. If you're going to say no, just say no, I can't, or no, I'm not available then. They don't have to know that you're not available because you're having your cup of tea. It's nobody's business. Just learn and get comfortable with saying no. That's going to be really good for your mind as well. Okay, now I'm curious, what's the K? Know your tribe. Yay, I made it work into think. Maybe not as effectively as I could have, but it does spell out think. So rewire your brain by thinking. Knowing your tribe. People are important. People are essential. And being around the right people is so important to helping your mindset. You're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, is a common saying. I think it was, I forgot who said that now. But anyway, and show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Now, I know who said that. My husband's granny. He's always quoting these little quotes. And she always says, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. I've never met this woman because she lives at another side of the world, but I know her so well because of all these little wise quotes that I always hear my husband sharing. And it's so true. You know, so know your tribe, know who you want to have in your inner circle, who you will allow to influence you, who is stretching your brain and inspiring you, and who is draining you, offloading on you, negative, literally frying your brain with all of their negativity. Negative people compromise the effectiveness of the neurons in your hippocampus. Yes, I just read that because I couldn't say that from memory. But seriously, continuous exposure to negative stimuli causes irreversible damage to neuronal dendrites. Is that how you say that? It's the branches used for communication between the neurons, and it could permanently destroy the neurons. That is scary. That is scary. So don't feel guilty when you have to cut off negative people from your life. Don't feel guilty when you have to take negative people out of your business. Have you read Good to Great? One of my favorite business books, Good to Great. And one of the chapters, he says, get the right people on the bus, get the wrong people off the bus. You know, if you really want to build a successful business, you can't pander, you can't people please. You have to think what's best for your business, first and foremost, and then you've got to build the right people into your company, and then you take really, really good care of those people, of course. But you can't just keep somebody on the bus because you feel guilty or because whatever reason you would keep a negative person around yourself personally or your team. Sometimes you have to be a bit brutal for the sake of your company, for the sake of yourself, maybe even for the greater good. And sometimes those negative people will turn out to be better because you were brave enough to tell them what you saw or what they needed to hear. And so I'm going to end there because there's a lot there and I'd love to, you know, unpack it and chat with you a bit about it. So as I promised at the beginning, this book is available. You can have a quick look at the QR code if you want. It's on pre-order still. I'm procrastinating with the end because I want to get it just right, but it's good to go. And I really try and dig into the science a bit more because when I'm doing a talk, as I said, I'm not really good at regurgitating the statistics and the scientific element of it, which I find absolutely fascinating. But when I'm writing and doing my research, I can really pack in those, you know, key scientific elements because there's so much research around this and it's absolutely fascinating. So, yeah, that's me been waffling on for far too long, and I want to hear from you. So any questions, any feedback, any thoughts? Shall we put it in gallery view as well so we can see who's still in the room? So we have Dave, and Dave, I loved your smiley face all through the talk. I just kept wondering if I'm saying everything okay, and I looked at your face and you were smiling. So great picture.
I'm still smiling. I'm still smiling.
Even if you were frowning or disagreeing with me or shaking your head, it doesn't matter because all I saw was you smiling.
Wouldn't that be great if I just had a frowning picture which just looked every time I joined the room? That
Oh,
would be so intimidating.
it would. I would just stop my talk and go away and cry.
I thought it was really good, really enjoyable. Um, I'm kind of obsessed with neuroscience and the mind as well. And something came to mind when you were talking is excitotoxicity, um, which kicks in after like 60 to 90 minutes and kind of burns you out. But what I actually really like about that is how it's worded. It's exciting but toxic. So in the moment you don't realize. In that moment you're in that state of flow and everything's going great and you're like, now I can binge for 2 or 3 hours, and kind of, similar to what you said, they're like neurons are shrinking and parts of the brain are shrinking as well. So I I think it's interesting too that like we're so much trying to rewire the brain, but some of the problem is we don't even realize that there's a problem that we have to fix in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah. I find it absolutely fascinating. I get kind of really addicted to it in some, it's like the more I learn, the more I'm like, this is mind blowing. Oh my goodness. And then I get frustrated because I realize how many people don't know, because you don't know what you don't know. And I'm thinking, I've got to get this message out there. It could be a game changer for somebody. Somebody could be trapped with this repeated thought and they don't realize all they need to do is change the thought and it will change everything. And so I'm really passionate about getting this message out there, far and wide, because it's so powerful.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel the same, but it is that kind of, if you just made one small tweak, but then it's kind of people have to be aware that they need to make one small tweak before they start. And you were totally right as well about that idea of 21 days to form habits, when that's like kind of making something habitual, but it's not actually changing the neural pathways. Like small taking the matter of the kind of walls of the neural pathways. And that for me was a kind of like, what I'm finding is neuroscience is helping me be better in business by doing less but doing more at the right time. Like it's much more of an alignment as a business owner. Like I'm running businesses 15 years, and I used to think it was grit and determination and passion and just get your head down and get work done. And then when I found out about stuff like excitotoxicity, I was like, okay, yeah, there's a fallible limit to my brain and my body that I have to adhere to. So where I'm trying to actually like reframe it for people is to help people think like business athletes instead of like normal linear, let's go through the task list that we have as well. So I think it's I know you really briefly kind of touched on kind of, visualization, but I'm interested in like your opinions on like manifesting and visualization, and not so direct opinions, but more what we just said at the start there, trying to help convince people, because I think it's a very kind of polarizing view that, some people it's like a wish and a dream, and some people like manifesting and visualizing is extremely impactful and powerful for them.
I think if you can see it, whether it's a dream, a wish and a prayer, or whether it's a real intentional visualizing, it's still going to have an effect. Obviously, the more intentional you are, the more powerful the effect will be. But, even just putting a picture up here on my whiteboard in front of me and just looking at it every day, it's not going to be as powerful as if I'm intentionally engaged in the process, but it's certainly going to keep it at the forefront of my mind, and it's going to it's more likely to manifest if the picture weren't up there on my whiteboard, for example. I'm curious about what you were saying about seeing business athletes, treating business as, talk to us about that. I was really fascinated by that concept.
Yeah, so I've a framework called focus modes, which is basically for mental modes of like cognitive effort and focus levels. So the idea is, instead of just doing lots of tasks and playing mental pinball and jumping from something really simple and low level to something really deep and creative and back, the idea is to group your tasks by the cognitive effort and align that with the energy you have right now. So it's essentially to do the right thing at the right time instead of to do the right thing at the wrong time when you've no energy. So I work in kind of 60-minute blocks. And for me, it's like, is this a deep work block? All of the tasks that are related to that are then deep work. But one of the modes is intentional downtime to recover. So like an athlete, I'm kind of helping people with the idea of when to go fast, when to go slow, when to have more active recovery, because as obsessed people in business and kind of addictive personalities, it's not always as simple as just sit down in the chair and close off the world and close your eyes and it will be fine. Sometimes you need to replace or steal your focus from what you were doing with something else. So essentially, it's kind of helping people understand that it's not work-life balance, it's work-life integration, that the downtime fuels the uptime, and that too much work has an influence on your home life. But likewise, what you're doing in your home life, rest, sleep, exercise, etc., has an influence on your work life. So for me, say I might work in the morning and I do a deep work session. My son, he's 5. He comes home early in the morning. I finish that first 60-minute deep work session, and then I get to spend like 15 minutes with him. So he steals my focus because he's, my world. And that allows me to kind of mentally stretch that when I go back into the next 60 minutes, I'm going back at, 100% instead of going in and just running in. And part of it is it's not looking at task completion as a metric of success. Like athletes don't look at that. They look at progression. They look at putting one foot in front of the other and actually, getting more miles in. So my idea is that it's about getting, I do about 3.5 hours of deep work per day, and kind of where we mentally fatigue is about 4 hours of deep work, but the average person does about 90 minutes of deep work. And I truly believe that AI is coming for all of that kind of repeatable, kind of mundane stuff that we do within our life, that we have to be more creative and be more focused. So that part of it is kind of showing when to run, when to walk, when to rest, and assessing that by what I have, my mental capabilities. It's essentially supply and demand is the basics of it. Is you have a finite supply of energy and ability. You have an infinite demand on that in your daily life. And you have to be a little bit more selective and say, okay, this task, it's not, David Allen has Getting Things Done, which I like the book, but I never liked the idea of batching tasks by topic. I never liked the idea of, I will do all of my emails together and I'll get them done in 40 minutes. Because one email could be mundane, no effort, autopilot. The next email could be the pitch of my life. It could change everything. They need very different focus levels within those. So for me, I'm like, okay, I'll do all the mundane emails with all the mundane admin and everything else when I'm in that shallow mode where I essentially allow kind of interruptions in that mode. I know I'm rambling now, but please do go on.
No, it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. I'm loving this. I'm learning stuff. So I love that idea, because I agree. Sometimes I sit down to do emails, but exactly that. I'm like, well, what I tend to do is go through the quick ones, fire them off, and then I've got to sit with the real juicy ones. It's going to take time. But I love that idea of, I'd love to learn more. You have to give us your website. So we can
look, very simple. Very simple. I've 2 websites. I have a website, focusmodes.com. I'm building something on this at the moment. And then davemere.me is my website. But also what you just said there kind of resonates with me, is doing those easy emails and cherry picking those easy tasks. Kind of, it used to give me that sense of accomplishment. I'm getting stuff done. I'm checking stuff off. But the problem I've also found is most systems have a lot of accountability, but they don't have much compassion. So for me, if I don't have the energy, I'm allowed to sit down and watch Netflix or chill out or join this Zoom and learn some stuff. But likewise, if I have high energy, because I'm aligning my tasks with my energy, then I can't procrastinate about that. So when I open up the emails, it's much more assessing the energy before what type of emails am I going to do. If I kind of have shallow energy, I'll check them off. But if I have high energy, I need to go straight into that high level task in there as well. But what's been most successful for me is because I have 4 modes that are consistent on a daily basis, it allows me to pull in habits and triggers, because I love atomic habits, but it was very hard to create habits around tasks. So now my habits are around my modes, like how do I transition into a deep focus mode? How do I transition out of it? How do I stay within that and not get distracted? And it gives me a lot more optionality. Like when I finish the 60 minutes, I go into what's called park mode, where I just switch off focus. But it's like a slot machine. It's like, will I walk the dog? Will I sit down? Will I play with the kids? I can do whatever I want within that once I'm not concentrating on what I was concentrating on previously. But that's like, that's an opportunity to just assess yourself. I don't know about you, but you know, I'm 42 and I've had many times where you sit down on the couch and then you go, oh, I didn't realize I was so tired because I've only sat down. And my park mode in between these kind of deep focus and shallow focus gives me that moment to go, oh, are you tired? Did you have that false sense of excitotoxicity? Or are you able for a heavy lift next? Or should we kind of tweak stuff? But it means that, like, instead of banging my head off a wall, attacking a task I'm not like aligned with right now, I can switch modes. So I have like fall backs but fall forwards. If I have too much energy, I can switch mode out of the average stuff. Or if I have too little energy, switch out of the average stuff to like completely switch off for an hour.
This is fascinating. I've never heard of this way of thinking, and I think it's highlighting maybe where I'm going wrong. I think it's really, you know, yeah, I definitely see how this could work, because it's like you said, there's those traditional, you know, task grouping and a 4-hour, 4-day work week, or whatever it is, 4-hour, and all these other, you know, schools of thought out there, but none of them have ever worked for me. But this, I think that this
Same. Yeah, they've all been a house of cards waiting to fall. And it's always been punishment. What you're doing in the past is wrong. Follow my 47-step framework and plan your day down to the minute minute. And the problem I found is there's something called the time inconsistency theory. And the theory poses that when we plan stuff, we see our future self as a stranger. And that was really enlightening for me, is we plan with our prefrontal cortex. So it's all logical. It's all best case scenario because there's some other idiot doing the work in the future. But when we come to do the work, quite often we use the limbic part of our brain and we're quite emotional. Like you said about kind of thoughts creating feelings and feelings then, you know, making those actions. A lot of the time it's like, oh, I don't feel like this in the moment. But when we were planning, we didn't care about those feelings. We were like, I'll achieve this. I will be optimum. I will be kind of naive optimism, I find we plan with. So for me, it's like, it should be okay that if you want to time block your day, it's like, have you ever thought about time blocking your day based on your energy as well? That'd make it better. If you want to plan your tasks instead, have you ever thought of planning your tasks, but also aligning that with kind of some energy management behind that? So it's just more, instead of, it's more an enhancement is the way I look at it. So there's a constraint of time which is based on neuroscience. That's very nice for me, that it's like it's 60 minutes, but there's science to support why it's 60 minutes, and it's 4 hours maximum per day. But I'm not trying to get people from 90 minutes to 4 hours within a week. That's like, let's do that in 6 to 12 months. But if anybody, like I've seen quite often, a lot of people will say to me they're burnt out in the afternoon. And I'll say, how are you working? And they'll say, oh, I'll do 2 or 3 hours in the morning. I'm on fire. And I'll say, is that one sitting? And they'll say, yes. And I'd suggest to them, break it down to like 60 minutes maximum, not like minimum, maximum, and have 5 to 15 minutes break. I'm literally seeing people 2-3 days later coming back to me saying, I've doubled my productivity, but I feel less burnt out. I feel less stressed. And a lot of people don't even have 60 minutes. A lot of people have like 45 minutes is the sweet spot for that one session, but we don't even realize, like, we naturally procrastinate and get distracted.
So true.
That's amazing. Thanks, Dave. I must say, I'm fascinated. I loved Angela's talk, and now I'm fascinated by yours. And I think we just got 2 talks for free in one go there.
I've just given a talk on how to talk. Yeah.
You're making me blush. This was an excellent talk. It was really useful. It's yeah, like this is something that's spinning around in my head for 5 years. I'd say maybe the last 13 months I've probably shared it publicly, and then kind of, you know, a lot of people approach me one-to-one. But as somebody in business 15 years that's tried every book and every method and every system, they just didn't work with how real life works. That kind of variability that we have in real life, that was the part that was always missing for me in the system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for your website. I'm definitely going to go check it out, David.
I'll throw in this one. I've a newsletter called Focus Fuel, because that's what I do, is focus. And I
Yeah.
absolutely love it. So I think we're kindred spirits here at the moment. This is literally the first video webinar I've went to from LinkedIn. I've just been I was on Twitter initially because I liked short form content, and I said, if nobody will listen to me in 280 characters, let's validate that data first. And now I've done a newsletter. I think I'd like sent out the 56th newsletter on Saturday. I think you'd like this kind of stuff. You're the same. You'll nerd out on the science and all of the other parts as well. So yeah, kindred spirits. I'll definitely reach out to you on LinkedIn as well.
Exactly. Awesome. Guys, this has been amazing. Sorry, and I'm sorry to end it, but it is just the three of us. So I think we might as well connect on LinkedIn, like you said, Dave, and then we can chat further about webinars and future projects. But Angela, thank you so very, very, very much for your talk today. It was amazing. And I know there were at least 2 people who promised me they'd watch the recording. They couldn't make it live, so there are some people who will still be catching it up. So for those people, I'm just going to mention that if you want to connect with Angela, she is on LinkedIn, and I will be putting the link for her profile in the recordings email, so you can have a chat with Angela and find out more about Metacognition and about her book and about the Women's Business Club. Otherwise, thank you so much, Angela, for coming. Thank you, Dave, for your comments. Really helpful, very interesting. And I hope everybody enjoys the rest of the day.
Thanks so much. It's nice to see you both. Bye.
Have a great day,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.